Welcome to Chalk Talk, Danville Public Schools weekly news magazine. This week we're going to be at Schoolfield Elementary, and we're here for a very special purpose. We have a brand new principal here at Schoolfield. When I say brand new principal, that doesn't mean that this is the first time he's ever been a principal. This is a gentleman who has a long history in education, and I want you to meet Everette Johnson. And Everette, welcome to Chalk Talk.
Well, thank you very much.
Welcome to Danville Public Schools.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Now, I said that you had a lot of experience being a principal, but you've had a lot of experience in education, period.
Yes, I have.
And I think what's unique about your education, and correct me if I'm wrong here, in looking over your resume, you've got experience in elementary, middle school, and high school.
All three levels, yes,
All
I do.
three.
Yes.
And I think the unique thing about that is, okay, you're an elementary principal. What's high school got to do with that? What's middle school got to do with that? You're in a wonderful position to know where these students are going to be going.
That's right. And I deal mostly with the transition piece. When an elementary kid goes from elementary to middle school, I get to kind of transition them into that area. And when a middle school kid comes to the high school, also know the curriculum and where they're headed towards that as well.
But I think that's a unique experience you've had. When you say transition, that means they're going from elementary, let's say in this case, from Schoolfield to middle school.
To middle school, yes.
You know what's up there.
Yes.
More so than someone that might not have been a principal.
That's correct.
I want to do something now. I'm going to back up here, and I'm going to go back through your experience.
Sure.
We want the community to know just how well qualified you are. I don't think I'll go all the way back to your elementary education. We'll start off with the university. Where did you go?
I went to undergrad at Fayetteville State University in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and received my bachelor's there.
And I believe you went somewhere else for your master's degree.
North Carolina Central University in Durham.
Okay. Now, you presently are living in Durham, aren't you?
I am part-time in Durham and part-time in Roanoke as well.
Okay. Now, you've got a lot of different things you've done, but you started out in Charlotte, didn't you?
That's correct. My first administrative job was in Charlotte with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools at a high school as an assistant principal.
You started off just as an assistant principal? You were never a teacher?
Well, no, that was my first administrative job.
Okay.
I started off in an elementary school teaching physical education. My first teaching position was way back in 1977.
We don't talk about age on this show.
Okay,
We just absolutely leave that issue out altogether.
All right,
So
all right.
We talk about a long time ago, but
Sure.
I don't believe in it talking about age. But you started off as a physical education teacher at elementary.
That's correct.
Now, somewhere in reading over some of the information you gave me, you also did that at high school, didn't you?
Middle and high school. Mostly middle school. I had most of about 20-some years at the same school in Durham Public, with Durham Public Schools.
So your longest term then was with Durham Public Schools.
Durham Public, yes, yes.
Now, elementary physical education, middle school physical education, and high school.
Yes.
What's the difference? Other than they're bigger at each
Just a
level?
little maturity level. Elementary, you have to gear your games more towards the little ones, and then competitiveness comes in at the middle school level when they really get competitive with one another. They like the team concept. And then high school, it just carries on from the middle.
What do you think, in your experience, because you've had classroom experience, you've had assistant principal experience, you've had principal experience. What's that relationship between, let's say, physical education, sports, and achievement, regular reading, writing, arithmetic type things? Is there a connection?
I would think so. First, you look at the individual effort to make the team effort as well. So when you're looking at the elementary as well as the middle school concept, middle school concept is teaming. So when you look at that and tie it in with the sports and athletics, you look at teaming and how well you can work independently as well as the team concept.
And a lot of the things in going over and looking at the different places that you worked, you made the point about bringing up attendance. There's if you're not at school, you're not going to learn.
Can't get it.
And that's just putting it as straight as you can.
That's right.
How did you go about improving attendance?
Well, one of the things you want to do is make sure that your students want to be at school. So you put some things in place. We put positive incentives in place to say, hey, we want you, we care about you. These are things we have for you to when you're here. And we know that you can't learn when you're not in school. So you put those positive incentives in place.
It's like what you're saying basically is you're making school a place that somebody wants to be.
And fun. And fun for them, yes.
Learning can be fun.
Learning can be fun.
Learning is fun.
Learning is fun. Yeah. That's right.
Now, after that first job, well, I'm going back there again. After that first job as a PE teacher at elementary, what did you do after that? How long did you do that? You said 1 year?
I did that about 3 years, and then went on to be a physical education middle school teacher, coach basketball, track, football. Did that for about 24 years.
Let me ask you something, kind of off the track here, coach. You mentioned the word. There seems to be in school, I don't care, middle school, high school, especially high school, that special relationship between students and a coach that sometimes you don't see between a student and a classroom teacher. Is there a difference? Or did you, because you've been a classroom teacher.
Either way, you're trying to build that relationship, that one-on-one relationship with your student as well as your player. You want them to know that you're here for them, you understand them, you want them to be successful overall. And so that one-to-one relationship is very important, whether you're a coach or whether you're their teacher or whether you're their principal.
Do you think sometimes that maybe students might have more of an interest in sports than they do in the academics of it?
Probably so.
Yeah.
Probably so, because they're probably having more fun in the academic piece, in the athletic piece than the academic piece.
Yeah. And there's so much emphasis, especially when you get to high school, on sports.
On sports, especially.
And you can maybe turn those sports into a future.
But sports also play a part in making the academic piece successful, because there's a criteria that athletes must meet in order to compete on the athletic field. So if they maintain that academic level, then it makes them a little bit more successful in the classroom as well.
There's been a lot of talk about those athletes and the achievement that they're supposed to have. Do you feel strongly about that? Do you feel strongly about that
very
they
much
need?
So. Very much so. I think, and it should be a criteria that's meetable, achievable for each individual athlete. I think it's a must that we should have that.
I think sports in education, that's a necessity.
It's got to be.
Yeah, it's got to be, because that's what we're about, education.
That's right. That's
the
right.
sports are just that fun thing.
That's right. That's just a fun thing, right?
Okay. Now, Charlotte, Durham, what happened after middle school? You were a middle school coach.
Middle school coach, physical education teacher. Then I became an assistant principal at the same school that I taught for about 3 years. And that was fun, because I now was standing on the other side of the mirror. So I got to see, being a classroom teacher, what it was like from a classroom perspective. Then I moved over to administrative and got to see that part as well as administrator.
I think that you make a good point there, though. In many teachers that have gone into administration, no matter how they went into administration, there was a certain view of administrators when you're in the classroom.
Sure.
And then when you turn around and you see it from the other end, there's a difference.
That's a difference. That's a difference. And even though we may be looking at the same outcomes for students to be successful, sometimes administrators and teachers don't see the same figure as to what happens through that.
They don't see sometimes the same approach to get to
the results.
But
Right.
what you're saying is everybody wants the same result.
Everybody wants the same. The end result is the same.
End result the same,
Yeah.
as long as we get there.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay.
Assistant principal. Then you went on to be a principal in another district, wasn't it?
In Granville County Schools. That was my first principalship at a brand new school, opened a brand new middle school, grades 4 through 8, which was an intermediate school, not an elementary, not a middle, but a combination of both, grades 4 through 8. It's a little different.
During that, what were the years during that? I believe
98 to 2003.
But wasn't there a movement then to kind of change the middle school concept to, in other words, the middle school came about to transition students from elementary to middle.
That's right.
And then this whole new movement in middle schools at that time was to help transition middle school students into high school.
That's
so
correct.
Therefore, you got that 5 through 8 or 6 through 8.
6 through 8.
Because 8 used to be in high school.
Yeah, that's right. It used to be a junior high concept.
Yes.
Junior high school. Now it's more middle, where ninth grade actually was in middle school as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that whole concept during that time. So
Right.
you became a middle school principal when actually middle school was having some changes.
Correct.
How was it configured with teachers there at that school?
Well, the reason we had a kind of a different feel there was that we were taking the overflow of elementary school that was overcrowded at the time. So we actually took their 4th and 5th graders in our school. And then after 3 years, they transitioned back because they built a new elementary
I
school.
was going to say 4th grade would be
Fourth and fifth,
that'd
yeah.
be kind of small to be in a middle school setting.
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
it?
but it worked out perfect. Everyone had their own little hallways, and it was a perfect
Pods,
setting.
the
It was a hallway. It was more of a hallway. Yeah, and they were departmentalized, so everybody just kind of went with the flow.
Now that was Buntner?
Butner STEM Middle
Where is that?
in Granville County,
Now,
North
where's
Carolina.
Granville County? You got to help me.
Granville County would be north of Durham,
North of Durham.
north
So
of
you're
Durham.
still in that same Durham
Sure.
area.
within 30 minutes.
Okay. Now what happened after that? You became principal again.
Became principal after leaving there. Became principal of a high school. That was my high school experience.
That was in Charlotte.
That was in Montgomery County, North Carolina.
Okay.
A little town called Troy Bisco.
Okay. Now where's that?
That's north of Greensboro,
Okay.
Asheboro, Greensboro area.
Okay. So
So
you're
I became
still in
a
North
high school.
Carolina.
Still in North Carolina. About an hour and a half from Durham.
Now, am I remembering correctly? That was a high school of about 500 students.
No, it was about 700.
About 700.
700 students, high school. Yes.
Okay, high school. So you're elementary assistant principal, elementary principal, middle school principal. Now you've moved up to high school.
Had not been an elementary principal at this point. Just
Middle school.
middle school principal, now high school, principal. Yes.
Okay. High school, what did you find there different from the middle school? 'Cause
Again, we talk about the maturity level.
But don't you think they've matured to a nice point?
Oh yes, oh yes,
A little
oh, yes. Oh,
bit
yes.
ditzy in middle
yes.
school.
By this time, they kind of know where they are, and they know the direction they're going, because they were looking at life after high school, college, military, those kind of things, careers. They're focusing on careers at that point.
Now, you just mentioned military. Where did I see that you started an ROTC program at one of the schools? Was that later?
That was at the high school, Montgomery High.
The one
Junior ROTC.
The first one they ever had?
That was the first one they ever had. And actually, I did not. The year I left, it started the year following the year after I left. But we put it in place. I hired the instructor and the whole bit, and I was kind of looking forward to having them on campus. But I left the year they actually started.
We're going to get back to that. Now, what I'd like to do now is we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to pick up at the high school, in Montgomery County.
Montgomery County.
It's a test. We'll see if I'll remember that.
All right.
Be sure to come back after the break, and I'm going to continue my conversation with Mr. Johnson about his principalship here and the experience that led him to Danville Public Schools.
Having devices in my classroom helps foster an engaging atmosphere for my students. They're having to get a topic, research the topic, and then create an assignment using that topic. The students are more engaged on the devices because they're having to work in a collaborative group. They're having to research a topic and then create something for that assignment. Danville Public Schools wants our students to be on the cutting edge of technology as we prepare our students for an ever-changing economy.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're at Schoolfield Elementary School having a conversation with the new principal, Everette Johnson. One of the things that we're finding out through this conversation is just how well qualified Everette is to be the principal of this school. Now, Everette, in the first half of the show, we talked about your elementary experience, your middle school experience, and when we were going to a break, we had just gotten to where you are now, at that point, high school principal.
Sure.
And we were talking a little bit about you were instrumental, even though you weren't there to carry it out, in getting an ROTC program there. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge fan of ROTC, and we have a wonderful unit here in Danville. Why did you decide that you wanted an ROTC unit if there hadn't been one there?
I knew by bringing an ROTC program to my school, it would bring some discipline to individual students that may not have that drive academically to be successful. So what I saw was, and what I knew would happen was, once that program became in place, that those students will want to be a part of it. They like being dressed in that uniform.
I was going
week.
to say, putting that uniform on,
Yes.
I've interviewed kids about having that uniform on, and they'll tell me they feel different.
They look different. They feel different.
There's a pride there.
There's a pride. And there's a lot of, the discipline even decreases when they wear that uniform.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And
they're part
it's
of that
another
group.
one of those cases where you need to maintain certain academic standards to be part of the program.
Criteria. That's right.
And
That's
that's
exactly
important.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right.
It's working towards a goal.
And we've even seen those students academically, their achievement level increases because they are part of a discipline group. They know they have to pass so many subjects. They know they have to buckle down with their homeworks and make above all, they have to make good decisions when they're a part of that group.
Well, they also, being a part of that group, also gives them, when I've interviewed students over at George Washington, it's like their family.
Sure.
It's my group. It's like being in the band or being in the orchestra. I'm part of ROTC. You belong to something.
It's a big family. That's
you
exactly
belong
right.
to something.
That's right.
One of the things that I read that occurred when you were at the high school level, and this is a hard thing to tie down, is that you increased the graduation rate from high school to 98%.
Sure.
How do you go about doing something like that?
Well, we had a monitoring process in place. My counselors and I would meet with students that if they were lacking 1 or 2 credits throughout the year.
Oh, okay.
So we would monitor that process every month. We would meet with those students that really wasn't producing academically and making sure by the end of the year they had all the credits they needed to graduate. So just a monitoring process that we put in place.
It's kind
and
of
meeting
like
with them one-on-one.
Follow-up.
It's a follow-up.
That 101 follow-up.
That's right.
You're looking at that student that can make it,
Can make it.
but may not make it if they don't have that extra push.
Right. And if there wouldn't have been a monitoring process in place, they probably would have been overlooked until the end of the year, and then it would have been too late to even get those credits accomplished.
How early in those students' education do you start doing that? Did you look at them as freshmen, sophomores, juniors?
Well, it's a 4-year. Yeah, I'd start looking at them as freshmen. And we knew the amount of credits they would need to graduate, and so you would monitor, have them be on track. By the end of their freshman year, they should have achieved so many credits. By the end of their sophomore year, the same thing, all throughout their senior year.
That is so important because for students, if you fall behind, I don't care if we're talking elementary, middle, or high school, and especially high school, when you fall behind, it makes it so hard to catch up.
That's correct.
So what you're saying is you make sure they catch up at freshman, catch up
Well,
at sophomore?
we just make sure they're on target whenever, at the end of each year, they're on target with their credits achievement. Because if not, then, they'll maybe have to stay another year, and a lot of them don't want to do that.
They won't do that.
So in order to prevent that from happening, at the end of the freshman year, you check the credits. But that's a monitoring process throughout the year. We don't wait till the end of the year. That's a process throughout the year that we follow them through, starting with their freshman year.
Okay, high school principal. What happens after that? I think you...
Well, I moved back to Durham and became an assistant principal
of
a middle school.
Middle
school, yes.
And you had been a principal of a middle school. What was the difference there for you?
A little bit more challenging. A little bit.
We had a type of school, larger school, smaller?
A little different school. We had about a 95% free and reduced lunch. A little different population, but great students, great staff. And
how large was the school?
We had about 700 students at the middle school.
700 students. What do you think at that school? You talked about the type of students you had. What was your biggest challenge for the school? Not for you personally, but let's say for a
probably the
school.
academics piece.
Okay.
Because of the diverse group, we had some struggles academically, but by the end of the year, we were successful in meeting those goals.
That experience that you gained being a high school principal, and then when you moved, you became a middle school assistant principal.
Mm-hmm.
What did you bring with you from the high school level that helped you the most? Dealing with middle school students, because we all in education know that middle school students are different from anything you deal with. It's a very transition period for students.
You learn how to build those relationships. That's much needed with any level of students you teach, whether it's elementary through high school. You have to build those relationships. and then moving to focusing on those goals, those setting high expectations would be things that you want to keep in mind when you're dealing with middle to high or high to middle or elementary to middle, whatever the case may be.
But in your unique experience, usually in principals I've interviewed, they might have been maybe at 2 levels, but you've been at all 3 levels. Mm-hmm. That's the unique thing there. And it appears from in our conversation that you've moved back and forth between these 3 levels too.
Well, I when I thought about my career, I said, it'd be nice to have a high school experience, and then finally my elementary experience. So I've been on all 3 as a principal. So that's one of my goals that I want to achieve.
Now, I have down here that you're a middle school principal in Durham,
mm-hmm.
an assistant also in Durham.
Yes.
All right. Now,
after I left the middle school principalship, I retired.
Okay.
I retired and went to a charter school as an assistant after my retirement.
Okay, that's very interesting. Mm-hmm. I have some background in charter schools
school,
in Florida.
It was a great school, great experience.
Started charter schools.
Did you really?
Yeah,
okay.
Working with the state there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see different between a charter school and a public school? Because a charter school is a public school.
It is.
It
is.
Mm-hmm.
Students, great group of students, well managed. Not a lot of discipline problems. Academics were pretty high.
It's a choice, right?
It was a choice. And they were there by lottery, so they were receiving the best of the best at that particular location.
Now, how long did you stay there at the
Only
charter
1
school?
year.
Only 1 year?
Right.
Is charter school still going?
It is.
It is?
And it's one of the top charter schools in North Carolina,
because
academically.
They don't have long lives sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It is
charter
still going.
schools.
It's still going.
Yeah. Okay. What happened after that? I see us in Roanoke now.
Roanoke City, yes. I had the opportunity to become an assistant principal at one of the schools in Roanoke City.
Now this is after you've retired.
After retirement.
You've retired, and then you go spend a year at a charter school, and then you get back into the public school situation.
I love what I do.
I
love what I do.
So you went to work in Roanoke. Doing
an assistant principal at an elementary school.
Okay.
Large school, 800 students.
Actually, that's something here in Danville. We don't have large elementary schools, and I say to people all the time, you don't know how lucky you are, because I was used to 750 to 800 students in an elementary school.
That's
we're so fortunate here in Danville for the size of our schools.
Yes. The gentleman that was the principal there was one of my first year teachers that I hired in Granville County as a principal.
Now, Granville County is how many
North Carolina. That was doing my first principalship.
Okay.
I hired him as a teacher on my staff, and he had an opening at his school as an assistant principal. He asked me to come aboard. So I spent 3 years in Roanoke.
All right. Tell me about, I just made the statement that here we're very fortunate here in Danville to have smaller elementary schools.
Sure.
What did you find the difference there with an elementary school with 800 kids in it?
Well, trying to serve the students on a smaller ratio, teacher ratio, that was a little challenging because the classes were a little bit larger than what we would think. The space was challenging as well because the building was only for about 750, and we were a little bit over capacity there, so just space. And so those two things were a little challenging. But overall, it was a great school.
Correct me here. Where did I pick up some stuff about year-round school that you
That was in Durham Public.
Okay.
Yes, that was when I was a principal at Durham Public.
Was it a single track situation?
It was a year-round and traditional on the same track, on the same school.
In the same school.
So I had 2 different calendars, a traditional calendar and a year-round calendar.
A year-round calendar. Okay. All right. Now, I have to ask you the $64,000 question.
Sure.
How did you end up here at Schoolfield? Other than the fact that you're so eminently qualified to be here, what made you apply to be here in Danville?
Well, actually, I've been watching a couple of the board meetings and hearing a lot about Danville Public Schools and how successful and how they put children first.
Yes.
And I knew that would be a part of a system that I would want to be a part of, and a part of an administrative team I would be a part of as well. So when the opportunity came to interview at Schoolfield, I went in, interviewed, and they chose me. And I'm happy I'm here. I'm glad I'm here.
And we're happy they chose you. You are well qualified to be here. We welcome you. I want to say to you, thanks for spending time with me.
Well, thank you.
And I hope that everyone in the community realizes how fortunate we are to have you in this position. You have a very unique background. You know where every one of these kids are going to be going and what they need to get there.
Well, thank you very much.
I want to thank all of you for being with us this week, and for all of you out there in that school field community who have students here in the school. You are very fortunate to have this gentleman as your new principal. I want to thank you for being with us this week, and be sure to tune in next week and find out what we're doing here in Danville Public Schools.